What's up, Guardians? Profane here. Thanks for checking out the video. If you've tried dipping your toes into the new Legendary Onslaught, you know how tough of an activity this can be. It might not be quite as difficult as a Grandmaster, but this new activity will certainly keep you on your toes. Onslaught is Destiny's first Horde mode, putting Guardians in a very unfamiliar position. In most every other activity, players are pushed into having an aggressive and offensive mindset. But in Onslaught, the paradigm has been flipped, and players will now need to start thinking more defensively, as our goal is not just to mindlessly chase down enemies, but to protect the ADUs. So I've put together a list of tips, tricks, and other helpful details, so that anyone can easily overcome and dominate while tackling the legendary mode of Onslaught. A complete and successful run-through of Legendary Onslaught will take you right around an hour. To rise above this challenge, you'll need to make it through all 50 waves and defeat the final boss without your team wiping. If at any point the whole team wipes, the activity is kaput and you'll have to start over. There are 3 different Legendary Onslaught maps available: Midtown, Vostok, and Moth Yards. I like Midtown because its alleyways help funnel the enemies, keeping them bunched up to where they'll be more susceptible to area effects. I also like Vostok because 2 of the 3 defensive zones gives you high ground advantage. Currently, we only have 2 enemy races to defend against, either Fallen or Hive, and this will likely change in upcoming weeks. When Hive are on the menu, you'll need to be ready for Barrier and Unstoppable champions. When it's the Fallen, you'll have Overload and Barrier champions. I would really recommend that each member of the team have a mixture of weapons on them, along with different abilities to handle these champions independently, because at a moment's notice, you might be the last Guardian standing, having to take on a champion along with many rank and file enemies all by yourself. Within these 50 waves, there are 5 total boss fights, 5 spark encounters, and 40 waves of complete defensive ADU protection. You don't want to chase down your enemies here, especially as you get deeper into the waves. The enemies get stronger and a lot harder to kill, so if you're running a build that primarily focuses around up-close, melee shotgun combinations, well, you might want to reconsider your choices, because there's an asinine amount of explodable enemies no matter what faction you're up against. As you're defending, there will be side objectives coercing you to leave the ADU. These are completely optional, for the most part. They do reward a heavy ammo crate, so there's a lot of risk and reward. But you need to be very strategic about your approach in completing each of these side objectives, because some will take you very far away, and some will have you going up against very strong enemies. There should always be at least one Guardian holding down the fort, so it might be in your best interest to assign a player early on to be responsible for completing those objectives. But even when those side objectives prompt, a more pressing matter is going to be handling the waves of enemies that are also coming to the ADU. So before you run off to handle a side objective, be sure that the ADU is going to be safe while you're gone. And when it gets into those final few waves, unless that side objective is a skyburner or a mine detonation, then you'll be much better off to just hang back towards the ADU and make sure it stays safe. You'll also have tormentors that randomly spawn in instead of side objectives, and this can happen a couple of different times. And when these do come in, try to lure them away from the ADU and away from the other enemies. This way you can more safely take on the tormentor without getting sideswiped. Even when the tormentor is out, there will be enemies pushing up to the ADU, so don't let your whole team get overly fixated on just the one tormentor. Just let 1 or 2 people focus on it, while the other person focuses in on the incoming ads. You've likely noticed that certain enemies drop batteries, and batteries heal the ADU. They also provide you with scrap to purchase and level up defenses. In the later waves, trip mines and turrets are the most valuable defenses. To help heal the ADU faster and generate bonus scrap, be sure that you are duplicating as many batteries as you can. To duplicate a battery, you simply need to hold in on your class ability activation at the same time as throwing the battery. This will spawn a second battery, and if you wanted, you could even let a teammate grab that one and duplicate your duplicate, and so on and so forth. When defending the ADU, it's best to stay near but not directly in front of the ADU itself. If enemies are targeted onto you but miss, they're going to hit the ADU, so stay close but not too close. If you're a Titan, I would run a towering barricade and place it right in front of the ADU. And if you're running a stasis build or using the Salvation's grip, you could easily drop down stasis crystals to shield the ADU from any incoming damage. Stasis crystals, stasis weapons, and stasis builds in general are really strong in this activity, since you'll be able to slow and freeze targets and create huge barriers to block their pathway. Stasis Warlocks will really help the team out when using the Osmiumonsi. Revenant Hunters should consider the Renewal Grasp or the Frosties, and the Hoarfrost Z would be a great option with Titans. Since enemies are going to be coming at you in huge waves, they'll often be bunched up, so having weapons and abilities that blind and disorient will be a tremendous benefit. And to that same extent, weapons and abilities that trigger area damage will be just as beneficial. There are several grenade launchers that come with disorienting grenades, along with perks like destabilizing rounds, incandescent, or chain reaction, which would all really come in handy. Each week there are different weapon types that will get surged. This week happens to be trace rifles and heavy machine guns, but each week that's going to be different, so be sure that you try to adhere to these surges. Solar weapons have a unique advantage this season since they combine with the Flint Striker artifact mod to give you Radiance, which grants a 20% bonus in weapon damage. And that's even when not running a solar build, so it might be in your best interest to take advantage of these artifact mods by using at least one solar weapon, no matter what your loadout is. I mentioned the Salvation's grip already, but a few other exotic weapons that will really be able to shine in this activity will be the Leviathan's Breath, which pumps out a huge burst of damage against enemies. And since it just got buffed, the 1,000 Voices could be just as impressive. And so is the Witherhorde and the Anarchy. The Galahorn will be great if the rest of the team goes with legendary rockets, but the Dragon's Breath is just absolutely amazing against those big hordes of Hive and Fallen. Exotics like the Navigator or Lumina would also be really beneficial since they provide an extra level of survivability for you and teammates. A few other exotics that you might want to consider would be the Sunshot, Aegir's Scepter, Graviton Lance, Luminarch, Trinity Ghoul, the Osteostriga, the Thunderlord, or any of the others that trigger area damage and class ability verbiages. I've put together a ton of different build videos already this season, so if you find yourself dying a lot and unable to keep up with the waves of enemies, then I would recommend to check one of those out, and I will leave a few different links in the description for everyone to use. But to keep it simple so that you don't have to go somewhere else, a few good builds to consider using, starting with Hunters, will be the Orpheus Rigs. This way you'll be able to practically spam your tether to keep all of the enemies bunched together, while pretty much spoon-feeding your teammates orbs so that they can chain theirs. And by using power preservation on our helmets, we can maximize on our ability to generate orbs. The Gerfalcon's Hauberk is also an exceptionally powerful option with the Night Stalker subclass. The Star Eater Scale is a great option at one-shotting big enemies, both with Solar and Arc subclasses. The Moth Keepers are also a great exotic to build around, especially with Strand, where you'll have the added benefits of Woven Mail and a Beyblade. Titans with Pyrogale or Cuirass would have their own one-shot super, but they can also get you into risky situations, so just beware. With that in mind, Heart of Inmost Light makes a great exotic to build around in order to maximize the uptime of all of your abilities. Since you'll have swarms of enemies all around you, the Syntheseps will also make a great option when running Solar or Strand, but I like it better with Strand since we get Woven Mail. Warlocks might be prone to running Solar builds because of Well of Radiance, and that's fine. The Phoenix Protocol or the Sunbracers would be the best exotic options. With the exception of Sunbracers, I would recommend running healing grenades if running a solar build. This way you can help not only yourself, but teammates as well. To keep your team stocked up on heavy ammo, Warlocks could also use the Cenotaph, which would pair up really nice with the Navigator, Aegir Scepter, or a number of other legendary trace rifles. As I mentioned earlier, the Osmium Monsi is so strong right now, and so are Darkness subclasses in general. Stasis gives you the benefits of slowing and freezing and blocking your enemies, and Strand gives you extra survivability between Severing and Woven Mail, plus extra damage with Threadlings and Unraveling, which is all on top of the ability to suspend targets. So with any of the three classes, Stasis and Strand are going to be very, very strong options. Ultimately, there's more than one way to skin a cat, so no matter what build and what weapons you're using, the key in your success when it comes to Legendary Onslaught will be to work as a team, feed off of each other's energies, and don't go chasing your enemy. They're going to come to you. Keeping that ADU up and running is the #1 priority. And with that said, I wish you all the best of luck out there. Let me know how your Onslaught runs are going and what build you decided on taking. Thank you as always for checking out the video. If you enjoyed and found it helpful, then be sure to hit that like button below, along with the subscribe button if you're new. Both are greatly appreciated, and both really do help support the channel. If you're a new Light Guardian, just starting your journey, or a battle-hardened veteran, just looking for a new home, then be sure to check out the Discord link in the description below, and join one of the greatest communities in all of Destiny. And until next time, Guardians, this has been Profane, wishing you all some happy hunting.